Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we're back on the doors for Project Ruby, and last week we did the wind wing delete and the one-piece door glass conversion, and it's working out really good, except for one thing. We're still manual crank windows, and we got to have power windows on Ruby, don't we? So I tried to use my DIY power window conversion. I did some videos ago, and it's just a little too fat, about 1/8 of an inch too fat, and it's sticking out. The glass is going to hit it, so I couldn't make that work. But in the instruction for the one-piece door glass, they did mention if you buy a power window conversion kit from Electric Life and modify it, it will fit. Now, frankly, I've never heard of Electric Life, but I looked them up and they have a lot of different products. And I thought, you know, we got to do what we got to do. So I ordered the left and right fronts off of Summit for $366. They came in and they actually look like a really nice unit. The motor is kind of tiny, though. I'm a little concerned that it's going to have enough power to do the job. But they are made in Italy, which was kind of surprising. So I think if we get this modified, get it up in there, we'll find out it's going to work just fine. So let's move over to the bench, take a look at it, and then talk about the modifications we have to do to get that to squeeze up inside there. Okay, I laid the other window regulator right over the top of it, and all these distances are all exactly the same from here to here, here to here. The only difference I could see is that the sector gear on this one from the center pivot point out to the teeth is about 5 inches, and on the factory one it's 7 inches. So this will actually have less leverage over the window. So hopefully this motor is that much stronger, but that's about it. Now what we need to do to modify this is we need to make it skinny, more skinny than it already is. It's already pretty narrow, but what we need to do is actually remove this lip that they've been over here. We're going to, they say flatten it out in the instructions, but we're going to take the cutoff wheel and cut it right along there. Then these studs are the studs where it would mount normally to the inside of your door panel area to hold it on the car. So these need to be removed as well, and basically this is going to bolt flat right up against the, right up the inside of the door. These also for this little stop. We will not need the stop because this is a sedan. The glass will stop at the top and then there's a stop at the bottom inside the car. So let's move over to the welding bench and get to work to modify this real quick. These should come out pretty easy. I think these shouldn't be a big deal, and we'll just have to figure out how to cut these out of the way. All right, I went ahead and removed the motor already, and I cleaned up all the grease they had put on here because it's just going to get full of grit and have to be cleaned off later anyways. So the motor's out of the way. We can move the sector gear wherever we need to, so it's out of the way while we're cutting or whatever. And I think the first thing we want to do is get these kind of a stanchion off here. It had a metric bolt in it, and it's almost, I think it's kind of more like a riv nut here. So I think we're just going to kind of grind the tops off with this flapper wheel here and see if we can knock them out with a center punch. That worked pretty good. Let's get the other three. All right, that's all 4 of them. Now let's go ahead and move over to getting this, these kind of spot welded nuts on here that was for that stop on the inside. All right, since there isn't a spot weld we can cut or anything to help this, I'm just going to hit it with a chisel here and see if we can get these to break loose. There it goes. All right, well, if I'd hit the chisel a little more than my hand, that would have went a lot faster. All right, I'm going to knock these off, smooth that out, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to cut these off right here. All right, before we cut those lips off, I almost forgot we need to prep this for the new guides or glides or rollers, whatever you want to call them. So this comes from Electric Life with the factory size rollers. They don't really roll. I can't get them to spin, but doesn't matter. We're going to grind this little riveted area off right here with a flapper disc so we can get these installed. Okay, that takes care of that. These holes are a little small, so I think we need to just bump those out to 1/4 inch, and these will fit right in. Okay, in the One Piece Products directions, they tell you just to bend this over and hammer it flat with a ball peen hammer. I don't like that, it's kind of janky. So we're just gonna take a cutoff wheel and try to cut as close as we can to right here, and we'll grind anything else that's left over smooth. So let's just bust that out real quick. All right, that came out really nice. Got it nice and smooth. There's still a little bit of a lip there, but I don't think it's gonna matter. Let me go ahead and get the other side, and then we're gonna talk about how we're gonna go ahead and get this thing bolted up. All right, we got that ground off nice and smooth. Everything's nice and flat, and that will sit just inside there, just like this. Now here are the 4 mounting holes, the factory ones, and the corresponding holes here. We will not be using 2 of these holes. So this hole right here, since this sits so close, you can't really get anything in there. That's why they use that kind of rib nut standoff, right? The factory regulator, there's plenty of room back there, but on this one there's not. That's why it's going to work for us to keep clear of the glass. So what we're going to do is, we're not going to use this one because I can't get anything back there. This sector gear will hit it for sure, and that's no good. Now we can use this one in its factory location and this one. This one, in the instructions from One Piece Products, they tell you to just put a bolt through there with a washer. The problem is the motor sits right here, and that motor actually, it forces the motor up and it doesn't let it sit down where it's supposed to. I don't like that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna relocate this hole over here. We'll drill a new hole over here and use that mounting hole and just abandon this one. So let's go back over to the bench and we'll figure out where to put these holes. And I've got some weld-on nuts that we can put on the backside here, so we can just put a bolt right through the inside here, and no fuss, no muss. All right, when I said weld-on nuts, I was being quite a bit generous. These are just basically 1/4-20 square nuts, but when you're trying to weld on a standard nut, especially these smaller ones, when you weld it, it ends up screwing up the threads, or you get weld over onto it. So I picked up a box of these 1/4-20s because I do so much of it, and these actually fit with their bevel down inside that hole really nice. So all I'm going to do is put that on there, put a bolt through it, hold it in place, and tack it on the 2 corners. We can get these 2 done, get it in place, and then drill for the next one. So let me bust that out real quick, and then we'll get it inside the car and figure out where that last location is going to be. All right, let's get this in the car and figure out where that 3rd hole is going to go. All right, I got the old manual regulator out. I got the glass propped up so it won't come down. You guys can actually see the sector gear. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's right there on the other side of that hole. That's why we can't use that hole, but we do have this one and this one we just welded the nuts on for. This is laying pretty flat. I see a problem right here where this is stamped. It's pushed in. So I think I'll take a Sharpie and put a little mark right there, and we'll cut a notch out of that piece. And then I laid out the kind of the outline of this plate right here with some soapstone. Give me an idea where to put the hole. So I think we're going to put the hole right about there. So we'll just drill an 1/8 inch hole through both pieces so we know where to locate it, and then we'll drill each one individually. All right, we got that drilled so they're both marked exactly where they should be, and I'm going to go ahead and take a Sharpie, and we're going to mark this right here. And what we'll do is we'll just cut on the inside of that Sharpie line to make sure it clears as stamped. When they stamped it, it kind of tucked it in right there, so there's probably a 3/16 kind of a lip right there holding that from sitting flat. let me go ahead and get this out. We'll get these drilled out, get the nut welded on, and then we can start fitting this up with the motor on it, make sure it's going to clear this channel right here. I'm thinking it might get a little close since I moved everything back, but we'll see. All right, we have it all put back together. I haven't put the channel on, I slid it on, so all I have to do is push it back up and slide it on the studs on the glass. So that's it's looking pretty good. Hopefully it'll all fit in there. I'm not sure if it will. But you can see right here, see how tight that motor is up against this plate, and our nut location that we just welded on is just perfect. It just barely clears, but that other one wouldn't have worked. It would have just pushed the motor out of alignment, and that wouldn't have been good. So let me go and see if I can get this back in and tighten up inside there. All right, guys, we got it all in, and it looks like everything's going to clear, but we're running into a problem here. I got the channel onto the studs on the glass, but it's pulled this way so much. So look, I have to, I mean, that takes a lot of force for me to pull that over, and that's pulling the sector gear and the whole mechanism over, which isn't good. I don't want that kind of strain on it. So I think what we need to do is increase this offset right here so this whole piece is riding in a little bit farther. I'll take some measurements, figure out where the glass wants to sit without being pulled from this thing, and kind of figure out what we have to do with this offset right here. Not quite sure how I'm going to change that, but yeah, I think that's what needs to be done. We'll probably need to change the offset on the other leg right here that goes over to the guiding channel right here. So yeah, let me do some measurements and figure out what we're going to do. I don't even want to test it going up and down. I mean, it's taken, that's probably 25 pounds of pressure I got to push to get that over, and you can see the sector gear, it's moving and flexing the whole thing, so that's no good. It's not going to work long term. So let me figure this out. We'll get this out. We'll figure out about how much we need to offset that to get this to run in the right plane. Okay, guys, I got the glass disconnected from the channel, so both are sitting right where they want to be. The glass is right where it wants, and this channel sitting. There's a little bit of a play in the regulator, but not much. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, well, I get my index finger in there. I wonder how thick that is. And then it came to me that I'm an idiot. We cut the standoffs off that plate and cut that lip off. And that actually is the distance we need inside there, because the whole window regulator went that way, this distance, until we cut that off to make room so the glass would clear the motor. So that's what we need to do. We need to basically, I think that's probably 1/2 inch. I'll measure it. But we need to modify this arm right here so it goes in that way, kind of an offset S curve, and then we need to do the same thing on this other arm without screwing up the whole system. So that's going to be the plan. So I got to get this whole thing out, and we got to figure out how to modify this without screwing it up. Okay, kind of figured out what we need to do here. Right off the bat, I see an issue just as it sits. Those old rollers were riveted on, so they were really tight up against here, and the new replacement ones bolt on, and you can see that's going to bang into it to the other arm. So that would have been a problem anyways, but now we're going to not have that problem because we got to move this whole mechanism, this piece, over that way. I did measure the standoff. It came out at 10 millimeters. I don't have anything exact thickness. I do have a piece of 3/8 by 1 inch. Kind of wish it was 3/8 by 1.5 inches, but 3/8 is a few thousand shy of 10 millimeters, but I think it'll work out fine. So I think what we need to do is cut a piece of this, slice this in half, and then kind of offset that and weld it all together, and then do it for the other arm as well. The one thing I don't want to do is screw up any of the geometry. So the distance from this pivot point back over to this pivot point is critical, and the same thing from here to here. So if I screw that up, then the geometry is going to change, and then when it goes up and down, the window won't stay level. It'll move at a different rate. So I think what we can do is slice this off right here, and then take a piece of this, cut it to the same length, and lay it on there, weld it on this side, take this piece, put it on the back side, and weld it on. Now, this being 1 inch, it's only going to give me, a 1/2 inch on each side, but it's no big deal. This glass isn't that heavy. There's not that much leverage. This stuff isn't that thick. So we'll be able to weld that on there real nice, and it should hold up just fine. So let me go ahead and kind of figure out where I want to cut it, start cutting some of these pieces, and then we'll get over to the welding bench and get it tacked together and try it out. All right, guys, I got 4 pieces made up since I have to do 2 of these. And the plan is we're going to cut this right about here, and then half of this will be welded on one side, then we'll slide the other side down and weld it on there, so give us that offset. Now there's some ribs in here that are actually going to make this offset a little bit more, so it's going to push it towards 1/2 inch, which is fine. I was looking around for a piece of 1/2 inch, so this is actually going to work out pretty good. So I took some measurements, so from the center of there to the center of here is exactly 11 inches, and from the center here to the end is 9 inches. So as long as that's 9 inches to here when I'm done, and it's 11 inches from there to there, and everything's straight, we should have no problems with geometry. So let me get these cut up, and I'll bring you back when we're mocked up on the table, ready to tack them together. Okay, here's what I was talking about. So that's kind of what we're doing. It's just kind of laid together. Nothing's right or lined up or anything, but that's going to give us the offset we need. You guys notice I've got a couple of witness marks right here. That's to keep me from doing something stupid like, you know, flipping this over and welding it together totally backwards. But it's looking pretty good. I think it's going to work. I'll do this one first, then I'll do this one. Now with these ribs, this is going to make this offset a little bit more than this side, since this is perfectly flat. I don't think I'm going to try to shim it and adjust it. I think we're just going to tack it together. Just that small amount, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. So I think the first thing I want to do is get that spacer welded onto this piece, get it squared up and the distance, and then get it, you know, tacked on there real good. And then we can get the length and the line up and everything else we need to get, so we get the right dimension from here to here, and then we can tack that together. So let me get this one on, and I'll bring you back when we're about ready to get that one tacked on. All right, looks like a mess, but I think I got it. So we're 11 inches lengthwise, so that's good. We're straight this way, so they're both lined up. And I think I've got them on the same plane this way, so that should be flat still. So let me get this tacked together right here, and then we're gonna get that one tacked together, and then we'll go ahead and try it, see if it works. All right, we got it tacked together, both sides, and didn't screw up. Everything's facing the right way. So the channel now is way over here. You can see now that that bolt is going to clear where it was smacking into it before. And we are now more underneath the glass without forcing this thing over. It should just lay over where we want it. This offset comes in just a little over 1/2 inch. This one's right at 3/8. So technically it's not right. We pushed it that way over 1/2. We should come back this way 1/2. But luckily we can actually bend this arm just a little bit to make up the difference. This roller is actually a swivel. It rolls and it has a little bit of swivel this way. So if we need to fine tune it, we can. But it looks like it's going to work really good. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the car without the motor and just work it by hand to see how it's going to fit. And then we can take it out, weld it all up permanent, and get the motor on it and see if this thing's going to work. All right, we got it all welded up. Everything's looking good. Got it back in, and it looks like it's going to work just fine. So let's take a look at it before we check it out. So if you guys look down right inside there, you can see the motor right there where it connects to the sector gear. It's got pretty good clearance between the glass, the bracket on the glass that holds the channel, the guides and everything. It gets a little bit closer, but it's looking good. And then the sector gears right there, everything's laying flat, nothing's under stress anymore. And then you can see the mechanism down there where we did the offset right down inside there. So everything's looking good, and nothing's kind of binding up or anything, like, you know, I don't have to push it over. So pretty happy to get that knocked out. All right, let me put the camera down and we'll do a couple of test runs up and down and see how she works. All right, guys, I got a battery charger hooked up. Battery would be better, but I got the charger in the shop and I don't want to go grab a battery. So let's run it up with that. Goes up pretty good. Now remember, nothing's lubed in here. So once we get it lubed and it runs up and down a few times, it'll go a lot smoother. We do have a little bit of a problem on the way down though. There is no spring on this motor or anything. It's not a true regulator, so it does free fall pretty fast. And it slams into the stop, which is no good. It's actually trying to bend the bottom of the door right here. So I think the solution will be to put some sort of voltage adjuster on there, so we can just slow that motor down a little bit. If I move the battery charger to like 12 amps, 6 volts, it goes down a lot more controlled. So I think that's all we need to do for that. But it's looking really good. I'm really happy to get this done. It's not binding, it's not going fast and then slow. It's looking really good. And like I said, I haven't even lubed it yet. So once everything's lubed up real nice, I think this thing's gonna run really smooth. But yeah, that took quite a bit of work to get that to work, but it is working, and that's all that really matters. Okay, let's take a quick tour before we wrap this one up. So the motor plate side, we did have to cut those 2 strips off and get the stanchions off, or the standoffs, so it sits right up against the sheet metal here. Now doing that made that sheet metal, it was just basically sheet metal at that point with no strength. But since it's bolted up against the door here and there's quite a bit of shape here, it holds it nice and firm up against there, so it doesn't flex at all when it's going up and down. I've been watching it. So that actually worked out good. We had to abandon one hole and relocate another one, but it's all clearing back in here, so that's all good. I was really concerned that motor was going to hit that channel, but it just clears. And then of course we had to modify the offset since we moved it this way. So that 3/8 piece of steel is a little chunky, but there was no way to try to bend that and make, change the offset, because we would have lost length and then screwed up the geometry. So that actually worked out pretty good, and it looks okay. And then of course we had to do the corresponding one to push for the guide one down over here. But yeah, it all works out good. I've been watching it go up and down. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't see any problems at all. And like I said, once it's lubed up, it should move really smooth. Let's look at the other door real quick. I did get the wipers or scrapers, whatever you want to call, mocked up on that one. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll wrap this one up. Okay, here's the passenger door with the wipers or scrapers, whatever you want to call them, that were supplied with the one-piece window kit. And it fits on there really nice. Got a nice stainless thing here, and I think it's going to work really good. I just have it kind of close-pinned up on there. Now the other one, since I have the beauty kit, or I don't know exactly what it's called, but all the frame right here and up around here is wrapped in aluminum trim. So I want to put that back on. So you can tell here why I've got that one connected to that one, and then this pushed into place. But it's looking really good. I think it's going to work really good once the glass is going up and down inside there. I think that's going to work out great. Cutting these to length was a little tricky because you got to fit it down in there. I just took a piece of construction paper, poster board, and kind of whittled it down till it fit, and then I just transferred it over and cut it off with a little saw. So that's going to look really good when the car's all put back together. All right, guys, that wraps up this video on getting power windows and Ruby's doors with the one-piece glass unit. So it took quite a bit of modifications to those electric life units, but we got it done. Now, the instructions from One Piece Products, they had about half of what we needed to do. Getting that offset in there was absolutely the right thing to do. There was no way I was just gonna force that over and hope for the best. That's just not the way I operate. But, that little motor from Italy, that thing packs quite a bit of punch for being so small, and it's operating the window really good. So I'm really happy about that. So we accomplished my goal. We deleted the wind wing, we got the one-piece glass in, and now we have power windows. So I'm really happy about that. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.